Welcome to another Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. This is the show where we talk St. Mary's University athletics. I'm the faculty athletic representative, Dean Beckman, along with our sports information director, Donnie Netto. And today we put the spotlight on swimming and diving, both women's and men's, with Amber Lowe. Amber is the head coach, and Amber, you're in your fifth season now, so you're no stranger to the Cardinals Nest, but has that fifth year kind of settled in yet?
Yeah, I mean, every year brings on its own challenges, but, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable in my role now, and yeah.
And I'm finally comfortable calling you Amber Lowe.
That's
that
right.
took me a couple of years.
That's right. Amber, talk a little bit about the progression that you've made as a coach from that first year, 5 years. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years, but 5 years ago to where you're at now. You talk about being more comfortable, but what kind of adjustments have you made from year to year leading up to this year?
Yeah, I think recruiting will always be evolving, and every year kind of brings on new challenges with recruiting, but I think I've kind of settled into that and kind of understand, our location and our sport and our school and everything, kind of how that works. And then, of course, each year, bringing in new freshmen is all about learning, who they are and, their strengths and weaknesses. And then this year has been exceptionally different because we've had quite a few injuries and illnesses that we haven't really dealt with in the past. So that's been kind of a challenge, trying to figure out, first of all, why that's happening. And second of all, how we're going to combat those illnesses and injuries.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one of the things Dean and I actually talked about a couple of weeks ago, the thing that I noticed about this year's schedule was a lot more dual meets, a lot more head-to-head competition. I'm assuming that you did that purposely, and if you did, can you just talk a little bit about the rationale for that rather than going to several invitationals?
Yeah, first of all, we've had like triple the amount of home meets this year than we've ever had before, so that's exciting to give our student athletes a chance to compete at home in front of their friends and family, in our own pool. But the dual meets for us are really just a chance for us to perform from top to bottom. A lot of the invitationals that we go to, we see some of the top schools in the MIAC or the WIAC and other area conferences. And a lot of times that gets to be pretty top heavy, and so our top 3 or 4 performers, we'll see quite a bit of success, and then it's hard to see for the bottom half, for them to kind of see the purpose for them to perform. So I really like the dual meets because we really need one to the bottom to perform in order to come away with a good result.
I want to back it up to the recruiting for just a minute and a couple of questions there. So first of all, there is no school for being a head coach, right? Like you become one, you strive to be one, you apply for the positions, but you don't go to school to be a head coach. Is the recruiting like one of the things that is the toughest to prepare for in being a head coach? What do you think of all the responsibilities you have? Is that one that, just can't be taught?
I mean, the recruiting is part of my favorite part of being a coach. I think it's really important to develop those relationships not only with your student athletes but also their families. And so obviously when I first got here I was quite young. I still am pretty young for a head coach. But when I got here, I was 25, and so that was a little bit frightening to be kind of thrown into it all on my own and try to figure it out. But now I kind of have it down, and obviously it changes year to year, but we kind of have our territories down and where we're recruiting and what we're looking for. And so, I feel a little bit more comfortable in that role now.
So that leads to my second question, and that is, do you recruit sort of based on the event and the events you think you're going to need swimmers in, or how do you recruit for swimming? It's not something I've really ever thought about before.
I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like to get to a point where we're to that, but right now we're just small, and so first we're looking for that student athlete that fits the academic profile of a person that's going to succeed at St. Mary's, and then second of all, are they going to be able to contribute in our dual meets, and then are they going to be able to possibly have the potential to score at the meet. And so that's kind of my criteria for now. Eventually I would love to get into a situation where we're recruiting breaststrokers this year and that type of thing, but we're just not quite there yet.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the guys team this year. Small on numbers, but some very talented individuals. I know Dean was talking off camera. Brendan McClay has really come on this year and looks, outstanding. And should you get away from the injury bug, you've got several others that have the talent, just haven't really been able to really compete just because of injuries.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating year so far for our men, I think, especially because two of our top performers are currently out with injuries, and we're not really sure what that looks like for Griffin and Darren. And so we're hoping that they can come back in the second semester and contribute in some capacity, whether that just is relays or maybe shorter events. So that's taken a huge hit on us in terms of performance. Obviously, they're captains, and so they're great leaders for us. So they're still, contributing in a different way. But that's been unfortunate that they haven't been able to be in the water. But for us right now to have the consistency of Brennan on a weekly basis is, placing in the top two. I don't know that he's been outside of the top twos in any event yet. And so to have him, contributing at that level has been huge for our guys. And then Casey Hansen, has been kind of getting in there on the men's side and changing a little bit of his events this year, but he's continuing to improve pretty rapidly. So I've been proud of that.
And on the women's side, obviously Brooke is having an outstanding year this year, but she's far from the only one that has really been having a great season this year. Mara Caples is doing outstanding. Katie Domack is doing outstanding. Talk a little bit about the depth you have on the women's side, because there's some very talented swimmers there.
Yeah, I think, in my fifth year here, this is the deepest we've been yet. Obviously you can look at the results and see that Brooke is pretty consistently, our top performer. But it's nice, I think, that she's, it's taking a little bit of pressure off of her this year to be able to have that depth in the other events. And our freshmen have shown that they belong in this conference. Mara Caples has, consistently been in the top 3 or 4 in every event. Olivia Fleming has shown that in the sprints, pretty much in any event, any stroke in the sprints, that she's going to be pretty quick. Katie Domack has been popping in there in the flies, occasionally the freestyle. And then, we have some of our sophomores and juniors who are contributing too. And so really from 1 to 9, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
And no seniors on the roster that I can see, and so it should be, that depth should continue into next year. And we had Brooke on the show last year, and you could see sort of the leadership ooze out of her as a sophomore. Is she continuing that now as a junior?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 3 captains on the women's side, which all 3 are juniors. So I think that will be a positive thing for us going forward, because they're all going to return, next year as seniors. And I think it helps Brooke a little bit knowing that she has, a cast and it's not just her. And so I think, not only having those other 2 captains, but also having, these other girls that are able to compete at the level that she has, I think that's taken quite a bit of pressure off of her.
Can you talk a little bit? This swimming is a training sport, and one of the challenges that you have as a coach is you've got Thanksgiving break coming up, and then basically a week and a half later, then you've got Christmas break coming up. How do you make sure that your athletes are continuing to do their workouts, because you come to a taper, and then the conference championships roll around? But how do you make sure that they continue the progression so that when that taper comes, they're ready for that, so that they're at top form come MIAC?
Well, I think that the student athletes will tell you that it's a little bit of a panic for me, just because I can't see what they're doing at home. I have to trust that, they want to be where they should be at the end of the year, and that they're putting in the work and either, going to their local YMCA or hopefully swimming with their club teams or former high school coaches and teams. But I kind of just have to rely that they know that they need to be in the water, especially over Thanksgiving, because we do that little mini taper the next week. And if they aren't in the water over Thanksgiving break, they're going to be pretty disappointed in their results at Rochester. And the same goes for Christmas break. Swimming is one of those sports, if you take a day off, you can feel it the next day. So if you take 6 days off, it's going to take basically 12 days to get back to where you are. And so if they want to perform at the MIAC championships to, their capacity, then they really need to be swimming over break.
And you hinted a little bit at the Rochester Invitational, which is coming up the first weekend in December. It's almost like a prelim for you for the MIC championships because it's a 3-day event. Actually, the MIC is now 4, but it's a 3-day event where you've got prelims and finals. Talk a little bit about the importance of that meet as you use that to get some experience heading into the conference championships.
Yeah, that meet is a really great meet for us. One, we're going to see some really, really talented teams there. There's quite a few Division II teams that are in the NSIC, so we'll see them. But just the format of doing prelims and finals and kind of the toll it takes on your body, physically and mentally, to prepare them for MIAC championships in February, especially our younger swimmers. I mean, like we mentioned that we only have, one senior on the guys' side and none on the women's side. And so for them to kind of get that feel of what it takes to swim fast enough in the morning to make the finals at night, and then to try to match that intensity or go faster in finals can be a challenge for them, and they have to kind of figure that out.
Amber, talking about the conference meet specifically, last year was the first time that the MIAC switched to a 4-day meet instead of a 3-day meet. Maybe talk about the reasoning for that and it's done for the student athlete well-being and how that went in the first year.
Yeah, I think it's a really positive change for us. They've moved that 800 free relay to the first day, as well as, I believe, the 200 medley and a diving event. But really, the idea behind it was the 800 free relay. And for those that swim the 200 freestyle, they would potentially be swimming that event 3 times when it was on the same day. And before we made the change, we were getting done at finals at 10:30 at night and having to eat and go to bed and have to be back at the pool at 7:30 in the morning and do that for 3 days straight is challenging. And so with this change, we're getting done a little bit earlier. Those athletes that are swimming in the 800 free relay have a little bit less on their plate for those other 3 days. So it was a positive change last year, and I think it's going to be even better this year going forward, where now it's Wednesday to Saturday instead of Thursday to Sunday. So they still have that day to kind of rest before they go back to classes on Monday.
I know you and I were advocates for the Wednesday through Saturday rather than the other way around.
Absolutely.
Maybe talk about the swimming landscape in the Midwest, the collegiate swimming landscape. How's it looking?
I mean, at the high school level, there's just so much good swimming in, kind of our 4-state area. So recruiting-wise, you really can't go wrong in this area. And then obviously our conference is extremely competitive right now, particularly on the women's side with St. Kate's being one of the top schools in the nation. They currently have the top swimmer in the nation for Division III. So obviously, that's good for the MIAC, and then with St. Thomas and Gustavus and some other schools. So the conference is really tough. So, we're hoping to kind of get our way up there this year, but it's going to be a challenge.
I'm going to let you do a shout out with my last question here.
Oh gosh.
We were joking off camera that your husband is probably good at every single thing he does, but I'm going to challenge him that you might be a better coach because now he's taking over a program. And so if you want to give a shout out to your husband and his new gig as Cotter basketball coach,
yeah,
the floor is yours.
My husband is the head boys basketball coach at Cotter and just finished his 2nd day yesterday. So his first time being a head coach, and so he's really excited about that. I'm excited for him that, he's very passionate about basketball, as am I. I was a high school basketball player and probably as passionate about basketball as I am about swimming. So we'll see in his first year, but I think things are going to go well for him and for the Cotter boys.
Did you give him any advice?
No, he doesn't need any advice.
Well, let me tell you, he's got an unruly group of guys.
And you would know, wouldn't
I'm
you?
the father of one of them. No, I think they're excited to have him and looking forward to a fun season. So, all right, that's going to do it with Amber here on the show. So Amber Lowe, our swimming and diving head coach, thanks for being on the program. Good luck here the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, stay tuned, though, to the Cardinals Nest. When we come back, Donnie and I will take a look at what's happening with all of the other winter sports. That's next on HBC.
Oh, hell yeah.
ION. Submission.
There it is! You can't see me! She's out, Doc. All hail the queen!
Woo!
What is that smell?
You smell what the Rock is cooking! We got a new champion!
I have tremendous respect for the families who come in to talk to us. It's extremely painful for families to have to relive their tragedies, but it is so important that victims' voices aren't silenced, and that's why they come.
Hi, Teresa.
On the Case with Paul is on, all new, Sundays at 10, only on ID and ID Go.
It's time.
Hey! Fall back! Fall back!
911, what's your emergency?
And we are back on the Cardinals Nest. Dean Beckman, Donnie Netto, and we're going to wrap up the program this week by giving you an update on all of the other sports teams at St. Mary's. We focused on swimming with Amber Lowe, the head coach, a few minutes ago. But now, Donnie, we turn our attention, and we'll start with men's basketball because they had their first official game, the one that counted, right? And it was against Crown College. And I know Joe Fano, the head coach at St. Mary's, was eager to get out there and show what this year's team could do.
Well, I'm pretty sure it wasn't just Joe that was excited to get out there. The
too.
Players, too. After about a month of practice and one exhibition game, outstanding performance all the way around with a big win over Crown. Second year in a row now that St. Mary's has opened with a win over Crown. And I was really impressed with this team. There's just so many people that are new. We've got all of those returners that we've talked about over and over, but you've got some people stepping into some different roles. Christian Metz played an outstanding game for the Cardinals, and way more minutes than he was used to playing in his first 3 years. And Eli Cave was Eli Cave. He had 24 points and did an outstanding job. Sawyer Rosner had 12 points, and Sean Pickford in his first game as a Cardinal had 12 points. So a lot of good offensive things, outstanding performance defensively. Crown came in with a player that was averaging almost 30 points a game, and St. Mary's held him to 14. So did a great job defensively, and I'm very excited to see what this team really has, because I think the potential is there. I know the buzz on campus is that they're looking for big things from this team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they live up to that billing. That just from what I saw in that first game, they really have a lot of weapons, and I think Coach Fano's got a great toolbox to work with there. So it'll be exciting to see what they do this year.
Well, it seems like the conference has taken notice too, because for years they were kind of always picked to be last or near last in the conference standings. This year, I think they jumped up to number 7. Right?
Yeah, and when you get ranked number 7 in the preseason poll, that's a feather in Coach Fano's cap right there, because you're right. Usually we're at or near the bottom, and for us to be really say, hey, we're right in the middle. Top 6 get into the conference playoffs, so they're right there knocking on the door just in the preseason poll. I think that the first couple weeks, right leading up to Christmas break, is going to be a very important time in the conference schedule for the Cardinals, when they open up against St. Olaf, a team that they've played very close the last several years, and then you've got St. John's, a nationally ranked team. It's going to be an extremely tough game. Nice thing is both of those are at home. Always nice to play in front of your home crowds. Then you've got Luther after that, and then McAllister following that. So it's important that they get into the Christmas break playing very well, and hopefully able to get some wins in their pockets, so that when they come back from Christmas, you look at it. Once they come back from Christmas, you're really looking at about a 2-month season, and they're going to ramp it up right away, and hopefully continue to play very well, and that's what they need to do is play up to what their ability is.
And you talked about all the scorers on the team earlier. Well, somebody's got to get those scorers the basketball, right? And certainly Kevin Gannon is going to be a big part of that. But also a newcomer this year looked really good in the opening game.
Yeah, Raheem Anthony and KG are certainly going to be the straw, so to speak, that stirs the drink. But KG's in a senior year. He's been through these battles before, and he's one of those people that you really kind of look forward to have a good senior season. He's been through the ups and downs of not only the wins and losses over his career, but he had an injury that cost him a season. And so to see him come back and have a great senior year would really be a nice thing. A great kid, and really, I think somebody who is vital to the success of this team.
And Greg Martin as well, a JUCO transfer coming in, really good at distributing the basketball,
no
getting
question,
those assists.
no question. And it's going to be a team effort. I think Eli is going to have a great year. I think he's going to probably average close to what he did last year, 19.6 points a game, and I think that that he's going to get those points. It's just a matter of what around him is going to give him the support that he needs.
Let's talk women's basketball, Donnie. They've been kind of bouncing back and forth between games that count and one that didn't count.
Yeah,
but they looked good in that one.
They did. They opened up with a couple of games against Winona State and UW Oshkosh. Oshkosh, one of the top-ranked teams in the country right now, and then they had their home opener was an exhibition game against Western Technical College. Outstanding performance from the Cardinals, scoring 90 points in that victory. And we talked to Coach Foley when he was on the show, and he talked about this frenzy approach to their game plan. And you finally got to see it in the exhibition game against Western Tech. A lot of up tempo, a lot of full court press. It was very exciting to watch, and I think that once they really get comfortable in this position, they're going to be trouble. They're going to be a team that is going to give a lot of teams in the conference a run for their money.
Yeah, anytime you play that kind of a style, there is, I think, a period of adjustment, and we talked to Coach Foley about that. But also, you're capable of beating any team. It doesn't matter if they're ranked or not. And they played really well against those early, high-quality opponents.
Right.
Even though they lost, they played well and kept those games competitive.
Yep. And we talked about that with Coach. His non-conference schedule is so very tough that it's only going to make them better. And with the style of play they're playing, I think that there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to really have trouble matching up with them. And so it's going to fit into Coach Foley's Foley's game plan, just in the fact that you don't see this kind of play. You don't see teams that play this style, and so I think that that's going to be to their advantage. Now, certainly Brooklyn Paulson's going to be a mystery to nobody with the freshman year that she had, and then she had a big game against Western Tech, and so she's going to score her points. She was a sharpshooter from outside, but she wasn't the only one. I was shocked. Maggie Robertson, our inside player, had 3 3-pointers, and so they're going to have a lot of weapons from the outside. Jada Biermeyer is proving to be a very reliable person down in the post. So I think that as we talked about with Coach Fano's team, Coach Foley's got a lot of weapons and a lot of different ways that he can attack that basket, and it's going to be exciting to watch them, especially early on as they adjust to this new style of play.
Donnie, about 5 minutes left here, so let's switch things over to the ice hockey. And the men's team, some really much-needed wins at the start of conference play. So it came at the best time for new head coach Ryan Egan.
Yeah, no question. You start out the season 0-3-1 in your first 4 games and have to head into conference play. Add to that you've got to head to Concordia for those first two games, and a great performance from the Cardinals with a 3-2 win and a 5-0 win. Tommy Stang gets the overtime game winner in the first game, and that was Coach Egan's first win. So, Ryan, congratulations on win number 1. And then they just dominated in game 2. Kyle Mee earned MIC Athlete of the Week honors after having 2 goals and 2 assists in the series. So, Kyle, congratulations to you. Well deserved. And Nick Nast, 26 saves in the second game for his second collegiate shutout. Great performance all around in that second game. And now for them, we talk about the Thanksgiving break coming up. They've got 1 game against MSOE, and then they go into the Thanksgiving break and then return to conference play the first weekend of December. So they've got a little bit of a break here, not necessarily probably a good timing after coming off of a sweep of Concordia, but they'll play the 1 non-conference game, have the week of Thanksgiving pretty much off, and then ramp up against Gustavus. 2 games away and home. Teddy bear toss on Saturday, December 7th. So bring your teddy bears out and get ready to throw them on the ice. And the first goal that St. Mary's scores on December 7th. And then they're off until January because they've got the Christmas break. So kind of a really interesting time for the hockey program because they've got to keep that tempo up, even though they don't have a lot of games right now.
It's a very difficult part of the schedule for both the men and women. You talked about the breaks and all of that. It's also final exam time on campus, as it is at most colleges across the country and certainly in the conference. So for the student athletes, this becomes a very stressful time. You want to keep winning, and the men want to keep that momentum going, but it's tough when you've got all those exams staring you in the face, too.
Right.
How about the women's side, Donnie?
Well, women open conference play with a split. After playing 3 straight games against nationally ranked opponents, they kicked off the conference season against Concordia and picked up a win and a loss. They won the first game. They won 4-3. Anya Hafis with a goal with about 3 minutes left in the third period for that one. So Coach Murray, congratulations on your first collegiate win. Those 2 wins happened probably about 3 minutes apart, so it's kind of neat that both Coach Egan and Coach Murray were able to get that first win.
And I saw your Twitter feed, and you were right on with it, too.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, anytime that you coach for the first time and get that win, it's always nice. And they weren't able to match it the second day, losing 3-1. But a 1-1 start. I think if you talk to either coach, when you look at our conference, if you can come away with a split every weekend, you will be doing just fine, and you'll be right in that playoff hunt. So you got to stay away from the sweeps on the negative side, and if you can get the splits, you should be just fine and really battling for a playoff spot.
Yeah. So certainly with Sarah Murray coming in as head coach of the women, Ryan Egan for the men. Donnie, what have you noticed as far as styles of play? In what ways are they a little bit different? You haven't seen too many games yet because some of these have been on the road.
Right. I think that right now is a period of adjustment for both of them because Coach Egan and Coach Moore were completely different people. Coach Moore was all about speed. And Coach Egan likes to bump and grind a little bit, and so the players have to get used to a different terminology, a different system, and so there is a period of adjustment, and that's why I think that the 2 wins at Concordia were so big because one, it's very tough to play at Concordia just because of the travel, and then to come away with 2 wins like that as you are just adjusting, and I think for the women it's the same thing. You've got a brand new coach nobody knows anything about. She steps in, she's going to have new terminology, she's going to have a new system. And like with the men, she's a different personality than Greg Moore was. So it's going to take some adjustment. The nice thing on both the men's and women's programs is their assistant coaches are the same as they were last year. So there is some stability there. There is some familiarity there. And I think that helps both teams just in terms of they have that just a bit of familiarity from past to present.
Finally, Donnie, you've got enough sports to write about right now, but when does indoor track and field start?
Yeah, let's talk indoor track and field. Coach Anderson, thanks a lot, by the way. They actually kick off on December 7th. They've got a meet at UW Stevens Point, I believe, and so they have 1 meet in December, and then we go to the Christmas break, and then when they come back, they'll open up early January. They'll have an indoor. The early Birdnell is usually our first our home meet, and that'll kick off the indoor season officially, but they do have a meet that first weekend in December. So first time ever we've ever had a track meet in the first semester. So Niels, thanks a lot for that. I appreciate it.
Best thing about that, though, is we get to have Niels back.
That's right, exactly. Can't wait for that.
All right, that's going to wrap up the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching here on HBC.